Hi and welcome back to Zoetopia, where we believe that knowledge is power. My name is Zoe Robertson. I'm here to empower you through knowledge and motivation. And I'm not a professor. Let's get to learning. And in today's video, we are learning how we can read more this summer. This is the summer of 2023. The theme is glow up, and this isn't just like a physical glow up. We're having an intellectual glow up. A lot of us have been avid readers when we were younger, and we just want to get back into reading, but it's hard because you have so many distractions and you have TikTok and everything, which sometimes makes us feel like we have the attention span of a goldfish. But indeed, we still have a human attention span. We just need to get back on the horse. And also sometimes we just don't know what to read, which is why at the end of this video, I will also be giving you some book recommendations for different genres and ages. The advantages of reading are numerous, from making us more efficient at studying, making us more intelligent, more empathetic, more creative, and it's just calming and grounding, really. So I don't really feel like I have to defend reading more. I mean, obviously, if you click this video, you want to read anyways, so. And yeah, I think summer is a perfect time to really get back into reading, or maybe even just do the reading for the year. Some of us only have time to read during the summer, and it would be so sad if we went through the summer without actually somewhat burning through our TBR. So I'm gonna get into the tips. The first thing I thought of when I was thinking of okay, how can I help people read more, was to, as we do with so many other things, whether it's studying or cleaning or other things that can be a little bit hard to get into, is to romanticize it. You know, make yourself a cup of tea, light a few candles, or maybe one of my personal favorites, reading in a bathtub. Either you can romanticize the process with, like I said, getting cuddly with your tea, with your candles, a blanket, or reading in the tub, but you can also do locations. I love reading on vacation, for example. So if you're at a cafe in Paris, reading will feel so much more romantic. Or if you're going to the beach, reading at the beach, or even just going outside to read. I love just reading in the sun. I love getting a picnic blanket, going out into the garden, and just lay down there and read. And now my cats come and check on me and be like, wow, you're still reading? What a nerd. So just stuff like that just makes the whole reading process more enjoyable in itself. Outside of the reading itself, you have all of these other elements that make you really excited. The second tip really came to me when I was outside walking Dolma, which was just because, and I'll put in footage so you can see, it is raining here. Not even just raining, we've had a lot of hot days, so now everything's clammy AF. We're having thunder and lightning, and oh my god, is it the perfect weather to read. My family is going out to see the new Indiana Jones movie tonight, and I was like, you know what, I think I'll just stay at home actually, because this is the perfect reading weather. Which makes me sound like a shut-in and a nerd, but I've already been to lunch today and on a visit with someone else, so I'm good, okay? But honestly, cozying up with a blanket and, again, tea, when it is raining like this, it's just the perfect vibe, because not only is it super cozy and nice when you read on a rainy day, but also I think for a lot of us it brings us back to our childhoods when we were reading as children. A lot of times if you weren't outside playing and stuff because of the weather, you just maybe your mom made you some hot cocoa, or you're allowed to have some extra snacks or something, and you just had a reading day at home. Or when you were a teenager or whatever, at least for me, I read all of the Twilight books while it was raining.
Where the hell have you been, Luca?
I feel in Norway at least, there's a big culture because we have Easter off for just reading and reading a lot in Easter. So if it's a rainy day, then that's the day you're reading, especially if you have a cabin and stuff. For me in the summer, it was either reading or watching Hercule Poirot. On a similar note as utilizing rainy days, utilizing free time when you're not doing other stuff. When I was younger, I read all of the time, and I think a lot of the reason why I was able to do this was that I actually just always carried a book around with me. We didn't really have a lot of stuff on our phones, you could play Little Snake Game or whatever they did in the 70s also. But for me, I love having like a Hardy book or Percy Jackson or something, and I just take it with me. So like if I was waiting, like as a child, you wait a lot because people have to pick you up and stuff. So if I was waiting, I just like read a little. And like now when I'm, for example, when I'm bleaching my hair, when I'm just like sitting with that thing over me, I'm like, okay, I can watch TikToks or I can read. So the last time I did my hair, I was just reading The Castle, and that really, it really gets you along. Like you're like, oh, what is 5 minutes gonna do? Well, it's 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and sometimes 20 minutes if there's a delay. If you're going on holiday, bring a book with you on the airplane, at the airport, at a hotel. You might be thinking like, oh, I'm not gonna read, but then like taking a bath anyways, or you have some downtime, or you're just tired, or there's terrible weather, and then you end up having extra time. You're like, damn, I wish I had my book. So don't, you know, better safe than sorry. Don't think, damn, just bring the book. Bring the damn book. For a lot of us, also having accountability, whether that's joining a physical book club or virtual book club or having a reading buddy, can be really helpful. And not just having accountability, but having a partner in crime, so to speak. So if you can get a friend or something to do like a challenge with you, or just have reading days, or if you can like get your family to have reading days, like some have board games, you can have reading nights. That is something that is super helpful, because like then you're in an atmosphere where what you're doing is reading. Same as like when you're studying with a friend, you feel more like, okay, I'm not going to take up my phone and go on TikTok right now, because that would just make me look dumb. And also like we're having this whole atmosphere of studying, so I might as well. That is the same with reading. And that is also why now that we're on holiday, and I'm not doing study streams anymore, I have started doing reading streams. I did a reading stream last night. I will be doing a reading stream tonight also. I'm going to try to do them as regularly as I can. So if you want to check in, whether that's live or just like watching the video afterwards, that would be really nice. We could read together. I have some lo-fi beats on, but if you want to do it in silence, and just mute it, you know? I have noticed that my study streams, for me personally, motivated me a lot. Like sitting here on camera studying, I'm not gonna pull up my phone. And the reading stream last night was also super nice for me, so I hope you feel the same way. The next tip is to explore different genres. Sometimes, as with everything, reading can get a bit stale if you're only reading the same author or the same genre, and you just need to get out of your comfort zone, challenge yourself a bit, or just do something new. Like there are a lot of dystopian books, for example, that are super awesome independently, but when you're reading them like back to back to back, they all start feeling the same thing. Honestly, I think that's why I personally didn't get into the Maze Runner like my brother and mother did, because I just been like reading The Hunger Games and Divergent and all of that. So when I came to the Maze Runner, I was like, oh, another one of these. You know, even though I love The Hunger Games, enjoyed Divergent a lot, and I'm sure I would have enjoyed Maze Runner a lot also if it wasn't back to back like that. You really need to diversify. That's also why I, as I said in my stream where I talked about Beauty is a Wound, which is a book from the 2000s, why when I got hurt and had to stay home, decided to read the books from the 2000s, because I have just been reading like 1700 books, 1800s, like up till 1940s sometimes, but usually like between 1810 and 1890, and it was starting to feel a lot like the same stuff, I'm not gonna lie. So it's really nice to just read something where, you know, like landlines were invented. Airplane mode is your best friend. Limit distractions. This is 2023. We get easily distracted, we do. Not just like notifications and TikTok and everything like that, but also honestly text messages, Messenger, Snap, whatever you're using. Okay, that's also notifications, but you get what I mean. Like if someone's contacting you. My grandfather refused to get a phone until like the last year he had, because he just didn't want people to be able to get a hold of him at all times. It is not necessarily stressful, but it is very distracting, you know? when you're immersed in a book and all of a sudden the phone rings, you don't feel like you can just ignore it if it's like a close friend of you or your brother or something. But if you have on airplane mode, you won't even know. And having on airplane mode for a couple of hours at a time is fine. Unless you're a mom with children under 5, no one needs to get a hold of you all the time. It's gonna be fine, honestly. So just turn off your cell phone, turn on airplane mode. If you want, you can put a timer and check it like every hour or so, but then you choose to. You're not just sitting there waiting for something to happen, because studies show that even if a phone is off, if it's on the table or in close proximity to you, it will distract you. So imagine when your phone is on. When we have a phone closest, even right now, I'm filming on my phone. I know that at any moment I can get a notification, and there's something distracting to that in itself. So limit distraction, not just your phone, but for example, clean your space a little so that you're not distracted by the mess, by laundry, whatever, and get away from people, get away from loud sounds. Whatever is distracting to you, limit that. If there's something that always comes up that hinders you from continuing reading, then get rid of that distraction. If you know you're gonna get hungry, eat beforehand or bring snacks. Another tip that has been very fun for me personally that I'm doing this year because of my reading goals is to journal your reading. So to kind of keep yourself motivated, keep track of how many books you read and how you feel about them, kind of a little bit of what they're about. Speaking of notifications, there they come, a YouTube comment, which is very nice, by the way, so thank you to the person. Okay, first of all, sometimes we forget what the books are about or how we feel about them, and just journaling them kind of helps because we know like, okay, this is not just something I'm reading and then I'll forget later. But then also we can remember the name of the author and stuff, or the name of the book itself. So if you want to read more books by that author, then you have that in your log. But also, when you make a list, it feels really, really, really good to tick off. And in a similar vein, you don't have to have a list of the books you want to read and then tick them off. But if you're reading books, adding them, oh, that feels good. You can see your progress. And having progress always makes you more motivated. If you're on a journey to lose weight, you would think you were more motivated by having more weight to lose or by weighing so much, but in actuality, the more you lose, the more motivated you are. Which, saying it now sounds like a toxic example, but that is the example I have. Or like if you're reading a book, yes, reading more books, that makes you more motivated. But have you also noticed that the further you get into a book, the more motivated you are, the faster you're reading. You read so much faster at the end than in the middle. That's the same. If you've read 15 books, number 16 is gonna be like, yes, let's go. Just supernatural for me to do, you can tell. But honestly, it's like, yes, oh my God, we're doing it. We all love progress. That's what we're doing our glow up and everything. That's why summer 2023 is the summer, because it's all about progress. In a similar vein, keeping a TBR, aka a to be read. We all move a lot faster when we know what we're going to do. So obviously, if you want to read more books, just continue reading. Like, read this book, moving on to this. Isn't it so much easier if you know what this is, if you know what the second book is gonna be, than if you have to sit there thinking, oh, what do I want to read now? Also, why would you be motivated to read if you don't even know what you're gonna read, you know? We are, at least I am not necessarily motivated just by reading itself. I'm motivated by reading a certain story. You know, like, reading isn't the destination, reading is the journey. The journey is what's fun. It's not like, oh, I've read all the books. I'm a much more well-rounded person. Sure, it's awesome to expand our vocabulary and become more creative and gain knowledge. That's awesome, but it's more reading itself, like exploring a story, watch how it develops, how it unfolds, like it's the characters. That's the point. So knowing what characters you're gonna get to know next, like what story, which author, that helps you get through the book you're reading right now. So if you're reading a book right now and know that afterwards you're gonna have to think and think and think to figure out what to read next, then you're gonna read a lot slower. Now this next tip has helped me read also when I'm studying, when you feel like you don't have time to read, and that is actually to listen to audiobooks. And this is because like I don't sit down and listen to audiobook. I listen to audiobook when I'm working out, when I'm walking somewhere, when I'm doing laundry, when I'm cleaning the kitchen, when I'm doing something where I can't sit down and study. And also where I'm likely to listen to something anyways. I might as well listen to a book and cross something off my TBR. Audiobooks are just as valid as physical books. They give you everything you need to have from a book, and not only is this great because you can save time by listening to them while you're doing something else, but also you can save time in itself by that no matter how fast you can read, you can listen to an audiobook at a faster speed and actually get through a book a lot quicker than if you were reading it itself. I have speed read through a few audiobooks, so honestly, audiobooks, do not underestimate them. Also, you know, reading, even though we are enjoying the journey, is in itself an accomplishment. You know, finishing a book, especially if you haven't been reading for a while or if you're new to reading, is an accomplishment and something to be celebrated. So you can set reading goals and then give yourself rewards like a muffin you like or a new sweater or anything that you want really that you think is appropriate for the book that you've read. Or one thing that my mom has done a lot to motivate my brother to read is that like, okay, when you're done reading this book, then we can watch the movie, then you can read the next book in the series, watch the next movie in this series, and wanting to watch the movie is a really great source of motivation for reading a book. I've done that myself also as an adult. I read Where Did You Go, Bernadette, and then I watched the movie with my mom with the lovely Cate Blanchett in the lead. So yeah, that was a really good reward to me. Not just Cate Blanchett, also Kristen Wiig as the crazy neighbor, which Kristen Wiig is always amazing. And having looked at the cast beforehand made me read through that book faster even as an adult because I really wanted to see the movie. One thing that I recommend for anything really, I talked about this in my glow up video also as a way to get more sleep, is to have a starter ritual. And this is something that I learned from Mel Robbins because her 5-second rule works as a starter ritual. I use this all of the time to go out of the shower because I always want to stay in the shower because the shower is nice and warm and relaxing and quiet and no one's talking to me. I know I have to get out of the shower, so I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I get out, always. And by now my brain is used to like, okay, when we get to 1, we just gotta go out of the showers. My body does that. And I think implementing that for reading is great. Not as in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, oh, starting reading, but having a ritual that gets you in the mood for reading, which sort of ties back to romanticizing reading, but not entirely. But for example, if you read every night before you go to bed, or you always read in your pajamas, or you always drink this particular tea when you're reading, when you taste that tea, you'll get in the mindset of reading. And obviously, you have to do it a few times before it works. But once you've done it X amount of times, your mind and body will just associate that ritual with reading and get into the reading mode, and it will be a lot easier to actually read. And that is not like just me, it's not some woo-woo stuff, it is just neurobiology. And lastly, before we get into the recommendations, I have a tip for attention spans, particularly because I think that a lot of our struggling to read is because of our attention spans, as I mentioned. So I have a couple of maybe unorthodox tips. Okay, when I was struggling to study, I actually used reading to increase my attention span, but before I went into just reading full novels to be able to get into the mode of reading, to be able to read heavier stuff, I started, first of all, forcing myself to watch every YouTube video that I started on till the end, even if I was bored. Because a lot of times you just watch a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, and just forcing myself actually worked. And I did the same with movies. So I watched like 2-hour movies even though I was bored, even though my mind was wandering, just to get used to like longer forms of content. And then I read books, and by then my attention span was a lot better, but still. Second part of the step is honestly, you have to force yourself. I mean, if you have the impulse to pick up your phone, you can't do anything about that. That's your impulse. But if you choose to follow that impulse and get up your phone, that's a choice. Like in Norway, there's this expression that you can't stop a bird from landing on your head, but you can stop it from building a nest, which sounds so farmy. But honestly, it's true. Like thoughts appear, impulses appear, but what we choose to do with them, that's on us. And if you have to read a page 50 times, then that's what you're doing. And a lot of times also, if you're reading a page and you feel like it's not going in, just continue anyways. I do this a lot with studying. I read something and I feel like, oh, I'm not learning anything, but I'm just gonna continue. And then usually your subconscious is taking in a lot of the information anyways, and as you read and as your conscious is starting to absorb things, the unconscious things that you have read come to the surface, and you actually are more focused and have gotten more of the information and have processed a lot more of the information than you actually thought. And so you don't have to go back and read it, you actually know it, you just weren't fully paying attention. And as you get more and more into the reading and are more and more present, all of that information will appear anyways. But if you have to go back and read it, then do it. But then you've been practicing reading anyways. So a lot of this is just practice, and it is dedication and just being hard on yourself, really. But be hard on yourself in the way that you're reading. Not in like, oh, I'm not learning anything, I suck. Don't do that. Don't do any negative self-talk. That is never the solution. Negative trash talk is trash, okay? Don't do it. And just know that you are always taking in more information than you think. And this goes for reading fiction as well as studying. That is honestly, okay, now I'm having study tips, but seriously, that is the #1 thing I've learned in studying, is just keep on reading because you're actually absorbing information. You know, that happens a lot. Someone asks you a question and you have the answer, even though you don't really know where you got it from, don't consciously remember it, your subconscious just picks up so much more than your conscious does. Moving on to recommendations. Why did I do that? Okay. First of all, if you're like a tween or a young teen who wants to read something that is funny but engaging and has like cute boys and a fun main character with an interesting worldview, Geek Girl, the series, I love. Even now, I could go back and read it. I'm sure I'd enjoy it. It's sort of based on the author's own experience. So it's about this like random geeky girl that is chosen to be a model, and she has a lot of fun and wacky adventures in like London and Japan and Russia, and it's really funny. It gives me like Bridget Jones vibes, which we'll also talk about. But I just love things that are just super fun. I love a light read, you know? And this is a really good way to get into reading because it's honestly sort of like a TV show in the way that it's written. Like, it's very fun and there are a lot of just beat, you know, it's not boring. If you're a little bit older, or also if you're young, but probably feel a little bit older, House of Night is one of my absolute favorites. Also, obviously, like I said, Percy Jackson and the Hunger Games, I would always recommend, but I feel like everyone knows about Percy Jackson and the Hunger Games. But if you're young, but again, like if you're Geek Girl age, Percy Jackson is awesome. Greek mythology, again, a relatable main character, lots of fun side characters. I love characters, like that's the main reason I read. For a little bit older, like House of Night age, the Hunger Games, dystopian, again, super cute boys, fun fashion, but it also a lot of serious issue, famine, war, blah, blah, blah. House of Night, sort of like Twilight meets Harry Potter. It's about this young girl, Zoe Redbird, who finds out she's a vampire, goes to House of Night, which is a boarding school for vampires to go through a transformation. Either you pass the transformation or your body rejects it and you die. Again, okay, this is gonna make me sound like a boy-obsessed girl in my 20s. Not me, but a lot of cute boys. She has so many boys that there's a boy for all of us, okay? A lot of variety. And also, again, like a quirky, fun friend group and serious issues, as well as just teen drama. And there's just a little bit of everything, you know, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of seriousness, a little bit of gothic element. What I will say, however, is that as the story progresses, it's supposed to follow the reader's age. So even though you can read this book at like 12, 13, as the book progresses, there are some more mature themes, not as in like assault, but more as in like themes of a sexual nature. So I would recommend a little bit of an older, like I'd say for like a 14, 15-year-old, it's fine. But younger, check in with the parents, because I know I live in Norway, so we're like, yeah, sure, read 50 Shades of Grey. But in America, I know that people are a lot stricter, and I don't want to get in trouble with anyone's parents, okay? So I'm just saying right now, alert. However, a book that I think young people can read and that I think everyone in all ages should read if you want to get into the classics is Northanger Abbey, a book that I've made a video about that is so cute. This is like a parody of Gothic literature with a super romantic element from Jane Austen. I think a lot of Jane Austen books are great for getting back into reading, especially Northanger Abbey is just so cute and light. That it really introduces you to the era without being as hard to get through as a lot of the other books from this era. And again, good romance, not just cute boys though, also douchebag boys. But a really just a fun portrayal of teenagers, because you have like the good girl, the good boy, the bad boy, but it's the Victorian era. So it's really fun to see how similar in a way society was to our own personality-wise. Another tip for getting into the classics, but if you want something that is a little more mature, is Frankenstein. Frankenstein is not as horror as you might think. Yes, it is gothic, but much more than the horror element, I noticed the romantic element. And not romantic as in love between a couple, but as in the romantic era, as how he talks about friendship and love and how sentimental and beautiful it is. It's definitely a sad book, but it's sad in a way where it's worth it because it's so beautiful and because the world and love is expressed in such a tender way from such a terrifying person. I honestly don't think that anyone should go their lives without reading this book. To me, this is the height of Gothicism and Romanticism and the subliminal, like the grandiose, beautiful yet terrifying elements of nature and God and society and emotions. And this book has everything, honestly. So just do yourself a favor, if at least if you're over the age of 15, read this book, seriously. You will get through it quickly, okay? This will be your motivation to read. First chapter is a little bit hard, but that is because it's written from the perspective of Dr. Frankenstein. The rest of the book is basically just from the Frankenstein's monster, and he is a lot more beautiful than Dr. Frankenstein, okay? This series never fails in getting me back into reading. Bridget Jones' Diary is hilarious, and I think one of the reasons why it's so easy to read and why the humor is again like I mentioned with Geek Girl Beat is because it actually started when Helen Fielding was writing like small snippets for a newspaper. So she was used to getting the attention of the reader and concluding something very quickly. And so the result is that all of the 4 books in this series, Bridget Jones' Diary, Bridget Jones and the End of Reason, Bridget Jones' Baby, and Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy, are very easy to read, very fun, not boring, and you read through them very quickly. Also, again, cute boys, Mark Darcy, and also, again, quirky characters. Can you tell that I love fun characters and fun groups? I read for characters, truly. You know how stories are either character-driven or story-driven? I'm character-driven all the way. The only thing I will say is that if you have some like body issues, eating issues, or like body dysmorphia, then if you're triggered by media, then maybe hold off until you're in a better place. Besides that, I think this is really fun, and I think teenagers can read this as well. I think the first time I read this, I was 11, and I loved it then, and I love it now. It's also like just the perfect portrayal of the 90s, I think. And it is British, so it has that good British humor. The last classic I'm going to recommend to you is Wuthering Heights. This is again a little more serious, but also, as you can tell, super romantic. It has interesting characters. It's not like quirky characters because it's not a comedy. It's a serious book, but it has good characters, very compelling characters, characters that you can love or hate or sometimes both. And it is Gothic, but again, it is not terrifying. All of the Gothic books that I have recommended to you, which I now realize all of the classics I recommended to you are Gothic. Can you tell I love Gothic literature? I have 5 on the way that I ordered last night at 3 a.m. So yes, I am a book nerd. But yes, it has elements of like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? That's a little bit scary, you know? But not like you are afraid to be alone in your house, you know? I think this also is a good starter book for getting into the classics. It's definitely harder than Northanger Abbey, especially like when the servants talk. They have like this British dialect that I don't always understand entirely, but usually it's fine. You can just read, you'll understand the gist. But if you want something super exciting, a little provocative, Wuthering Heights. And lastly, you don't just have to read fiction. Like one thing that's on my TBR is Paris Hilton's memoir, because I love Paris Hilton. And so I would recommend this book, Not That Kind of Girl by Lena Dunham. And I know that people have a lot of different opinions on Lena Dunham. She's not everyone's cup of tea. But honestly, I think besides that, this is just a really fun book about growing up as a woman, you know, and like a lot of different chapters in your life. Again, some mature chapters, obviously, because this is like a full book from like birth till 30 or something, you know, so a lot of things happen. But I've read this, you can probably tell it looks a little bit disgusting by now. I've read it many times. I just think her essays are really hilarious. Some of it is relatable. Honestly, to me, I know she's supposed to be like a relatable person. I don't find her necessarily super relatable, but the themes are relatable, and also it's just fun. Just really glancing into someone and their like most shameful thoughts is a guilty pleasure, and one that I will gladly partake in. It's like, if you love like Kardashians or Real Housewives or just reality in general, even like documentaries about like morbidly obese people or hoarders and stuff, you will love Not That Kind of Girl, okay? Because it is just, it's embarrassing, but in a good way, you know? Also, I don't know if you can tell, but I have a lot, and this is something that I often wish for like holidays, like my birthday and Christmas. I have a lot of these beautiful books, and like I said, would like romanticizing reading. For me, romanticizing my bookshelf and just having, I don't read these because they're big and they're beautiful and they don't open well. You can read them, but I don't want to ruin them. But just having them makes me want to read and like be a reader. So I would recommend just like building your bookshelf, just having things that are not just books, but also like pretty items and stuff, and just making reading something that is really positive. Furthermore, I review and analyze books, mainly classics, but also other books on my channel. I have the Classic Literature Club. I started the Modern Literature Club when I read Beauty as a Wound. And I have a playlist of audiobooks and podcasts for young women to motivate us and also help us navigate the world and do as good as we can, you know, just success. So definitely check out that. Like I said, my reading stream is also a thing now. So if you want to be motivated with reading with me, then hop on. I wish you luck. Definitely let me know in the comments what you're reading. I love book recommendations. I would love to like read together as a group, you know, and just have an amazing summer, and I'll see you soon.